Welcome to Niche Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new. I'm your host, Jasmine Garcia, and joining me today are...
Don't worry about the pricking of your thumbs. Something Sam Marchione this way comes.
I'm Shamila Karunakar, and I am the author in the walls, watching your every move.
And I am Grady Smithy, retired murder clown, and...
Fabulous. And we are continuing Monster Month, although we're doing something a little different today. And this was actually inspired by an event at my local library, 2 events, technically, where they were basically exploring how urban legends are spread in the era of social media, as well as the top 10 best Florida ghost stories, at least according to one Chris Salvano. He is an author, former paranormal investigator, and he currently has a podcast called Tripping on Legends. And they were engaging a couple of events, and as soon as I found out that they were happening, I was all, can we do something with this? And y'all agreed that we could. So now we are going to be sharing urban legends within our own respective states, or in Shami's case, province, I guess.
Yeah, it's province.
Oh, Canada.
We stand on guard for thee? I don't know. Oh, God. But yes, so we'll be sharing some spooky urban legends. We'll be bringing you to join us around the campfire, if you will, because after all, isn't that the oldest of all storytelling traditions? I will get us started with this tale of the Arbuckle Witch. There once lived a woman in Lorida, Florida. Yes, the place is called Lorida. People will claim it's pronounced Lorida or Lorida, I believe, but come on. It's literally spelled like Florida without an F.
Is that name of Spanish origin, or is it just a name some white lady came up with to make her kid feel special?
Now that's the question.
Schrodinger's name!
Although I don't know, was that really a trend back then is the question.
It's the part of Florida for people with no F's left to give.
Yep.
But yes, so from my notes in my very, very nifty Spirit Halloween journal.
How long do you think it will be until Spirit Halloween becomes an urban legend? Like, it takes on a life of its own as an eldritch creation.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, they do kind of just pop up out of nowhere, don't they?
There's one literally in walking distance from my house now.
Anyway, supposedly, this town is cursed. And it all started when, as how Mr. Salvano put it, an herbalist was welcomed into the town. Because I guess, they gotta pretend that they are still God-fearing people while still getting very witchy help from this lady. She would just offer different remedies, and specifically in the case of this story, love potions were part of her deal, which is already pretty sketchy. But presumably there was this gentleman, and I use the term loosely, who asked the woman for a love potion, and basically she's like, sure, just meet me at the bridge on a full moon, and I will give you this potion. And so he's ready to pay her for it, and well, considering that in spite of her herbalist title, she is in fact a witch, I will give y'all 3 guesses what she asks for payment.
He was firstborn child.
Yep.
Because I'm getting Rumpelstiltskin vibes from this.
And he's just like, hell no. And it turns into a confrontation on this bridge. And she ends up falling. But that is not what kills her. What kills her is basically getting stabbed by a tree branch.
Oh.
Yeah. Terrible way to die. He panics. Basically tries to have her sink into the bottom of the river. But since it's not very deep.
It's Florida.
Yeah. It's marsh. It's swampy.
Yeah, so she rises up, the whole town finds out basically, frickin' panics, but they're not going to bury her in the cemetery in spite of the fact, presumably these people have been trying to get her help all this time, and they bury her by the oak tree, because hey, that's witchy, I guess, and they think that's going to be the end of it, but of course it can't be. And she keeps on appearing on the road, and sometimes people rode right through her, or stopped short. Supposedly, they would see her pointing at them accusingly, because this whole town kind of let her down. And the ghost of the witch that you improperly buried is haunting your roads. What do you do?
Rebury the witch in a place that's actually, like, consecrated ground?
Exactly.
They did rebury her. They reburied her in the next town to try to make her their problem.
What?
It did not work. Yep, I think they would have learned when it didn't work. But then they tried to burn and scatter the ashes in another town. And they burned her shack.
Oh my god.
What? No, all I'm getting is this is a town of pyromaniacs, if they're that fire happy.
Yeah, because that is werewolves and or vampires.
I'd like to say I'm surprised by any of this, but I'm really not surprised.
Yeah,
Florida.
pretty
This is just a town of Florida, people.
I'm surprised Molotov cocktails weren't involved.
And alligators. Did they try feeding her ashes to an alligator?
I mean, I could see Florida trying to do something like that. And as it turns out, the area was once called Istokoga, right? I am hoping I'm not butchering that. And it turns out in the Seminole language, it means a lake where someone was killed in the water.
Oh, the prophecy fulfills itself.
It really does.
There's no going back.
Yep, basically. There is also word that around this same bridge, sometimes people have claimed to see a little boy there, just kind of causing mischief. So people are thinking that the original guy did end up having a kid somewhere.
Oh.
And that she ended up getting her firstborn after all.
Oh,
Okay, see,
the sequel.
to me, asking for a firstborn child in exchange for a love potion kind of makes a twisted amount of sense, because the person is essentially asking you for a date rape drug. And it's like, okay, so you have to take this to the full extent of the consequences.
Yeah, we should probably address that. Like, I hate to say it, but I think that dude would have had it coming.
Really, though, I feel bad for the woman, the hypothetical woman in all of this, who not only has to get magically roofied, but then has to go through the unpleasant process of gestating and birthing a human being, only to then give up that human being to a witch.
Yeah, a witch who was
Yes.
complicit in said magical roofing. Yeah, look.
Bad witch. We're all about women supporting women. Come on.
We do not support love potions in this house, Joanne.
Unless they are wielded by Robin Goodfellow for comedic effect, and we
Fair
undo
enough.
them all by the end of the play.
Yep, those are the only love potions that are okay. We say to the two Midsummer veterans here. But anyway, yeah, that is my first piece. Who's got more for the campfire?
Well, it almost feels unfair for it to be my turn, given there are so many creepy stories from Massachusetts. And it can be so easy for Salem to hog the spotlight, not just because of the witch trials, but because of places like the Hawthorne Hotel and the House of Seven Gables. You know what? I'm not going to do any of that, because you know what? Fuck Salem. I don't want to go there right now because there are too many tourists, and I hate it. Tourists, stop coming to Salem. Stop encouraging the kitsch. It's so annoying. But I do have 3 other tales I can offer you from across the state. So let's first go to the story of Eugene O'Neill, the celebrated American playwright. On November 27, 1953, O'Neill died in the Sheraton Hotel from cerebellar cortical atrophy in Suite 401 on the 4th floor. The next year, the hotel was bought as housing for Boston University, named first Shelton Hall and then Killichand Hall. O'Neill is believed to have said, I knew it, born in a hotel room and died in a hotel room in his final moments, and many believe that his spirit still remains, haunting the 4th floor, which has been renamed the Writer's Corridor in his honor. The lights run dimmer, and the elevators will stop there for no reason, and students will, from time to time, hear a knock on their door, only to find no one there. O'Neill, in case you didn't know, is the author of, among other things, A Long Day's Journey into Night. He is considered one of the pillars of American theater. I'm not much for his plays personally, but mostly because they're now associated with a sort of elitism that I think the theater industry can do without.
He's also known for being Charlie Chaplin's 4th father-in-law.
So if you're considering going to Boston University, you have the chance to live in a haunted dorm. Have fun with that.
And if it makes you feel better, Sam, there were so many fucking stories from both this and from when I just did a quick Google search of Florida. Florida's super haunted, man.
This entire country is haunted, but there's no one who does it quite like Massachusetts, and to support that, let me tell you now about the settlement known as Dogtown, which is now a part of Gloucester. It's a pleasant, stable enough town in the days before the Revolution, but soon enough it becomes abandoned. The most popular theory is that the town was cursed by one of its residents, Thomasin Tammy Younger, whom some called Queen of the Witches. She so terrified other residents that tributes of corn and fish would be left for her to stave off her wrath. But these tithes were not enough, and the last known resident of the town was a black freedman, Cornelius Finson, who was brought to the poorhouse with frozen feet in 1830. The town left to ruin and the animals. He turned feral with no masters, and soon died out, leaving only the skeletal remains of the structures in the town and the howl of the winds. It was Was this simply the course of nature, or something more sinister? Best be wary walking through Dogtown and its surrounding woods now, lest a curse or spirit claim you for its own. It is apparently really creepy there, and although some idiot capitalist, Babson, went through the woods and started carving moralistic messages on boulders to make like a historical trail that people can and do walk on tours, I'm like, yeah, nope, not going there. Nope.
No,
That's creepy.
The greedy capitalists rarely survive the horror movies, so there's that at least.
Fuck you, Babson. And finally, who wants to stick a middle finger to H.P. Lovecraft?
Yes, always.
Always.
So, Lovecraft, despite being from Rhode Island, which a lot of people would argue is just part of Massachusetts, not me, Rhode Island can stuff it, but a very popular theme in Lovecraft's writing, especially his Cthulhu mythos, is the idea of Lovecraft Country, which coincides more frequently with Essex County, Massachusetts. My mother was actually born in one of the towns that inspired the Dunwich Horror, and both Innsmouth, from The Shadow over Innsmouth, and the recurring town of Arkham are set in Essex County. And it kind of makes me happy to know that Lovecraft would be horrified to forever be associated with Massachusetts, because he was scared of us. With good reason, Howard. Fuck you. Perhaps the most enduring piece of legacy that he left from Massachusetts is Danvers State Hospital in the town of the same name. This was a mental institution that served as the inspiration for the Arkham Sanatorium in Lovecraft's story The Thing on the Doorstep, which in turn became the basis for a staple of DC Comics, Gotham City's Arkham Asylum.
Ah.
You're welcome, comic book nerds. But even without the influences on pop culture, Danvers State Hospital has a terribly rich history. And yes, that entendre is meant to be doubled. During its tenure, it was known to be overcrowded, abusive to its patients, some of whom went missing with no explanation other than they were assigned a new doctor, and earned a reputation as the birthplace of the prefrontal lobotomy. It also gains the nickname the Hell House on the Hill. So, yeah, it's super haunted. People who have visited the site and its adjoining cemeteries report hearing ghostly screams and seeing apparitions walking all over the property. In 2007, a ton of the building caught fire, and there was so much smoke it could be seen all the way to Boston, nearly 17 miles away. You can't tell me that wasn't a hellmouth opening. Also, I know I said no witch trials and dunked on Salem, but at one point the land where the hospital was built was owned by the judge who oversaw the witch trials, John Hawthorne. Do you think he didn't have some ghosts following around? So haunted. So just remember, however scared Lovecraft was of Massachusetts, you should be more scared. That and just don't try to take our Duncan. Just don't.
Wouldn't dream of it. Did you actually call it donkeys?
I have never heard it called donkeys. I hear it called dunks, but mostly we just call it Duncan. Nope, I'm going to Duncan.
Okay. That is weirdly comforting. I don't know why I desperately needed to confirm or deny
I'll tell you what it is. It's slander. It's trying to make us seem dumb. You're not better than me.
So here in the Great White North, here in Toronto, we host a whole spooky network of ghost stories and weird tales. Now my first story comes from Scarborough, a suburb of Toronto. The Ghost of Old Finch Road. The Old Finch Avenue is a road that marks the divide between residential Scarborough and the forest. When you get to the edge of the road, there's a one-lane bridge that goes over the Rouge River. Now, I have family in Scarborough, and whenever I was in the car with my uncle and cousins, there was always one instance where we'd drive past Old Finch Road, and I wouldn't want to go there, because this bridge has this honeycomb-looking metal road that makes me feel like we'd fall through any second. And this was during the day. It would have been even worse at night. So for some context of the history behind the bridge itself, it was built in the aftermath of Hurricane Hazel in 1954, and it took only 3 days to complete so that Scarborough could connect back to its eastern neighbors and the community could start rebuilding after the floods. And fun fact, the bridge is also near the Toronto Zoo. So the story goes, there was a young girl named Sue, or Susie, her name always varies depending on who tells it, who was murdered on the Old Finch Bridge. She had been celebrating her birthday and got separated from her friends. While they searched for her, they never found her alive again. It was only when daylight came that they were able to find her mangled body. Her killer was never found. And rumor has it, if you sing happy birthday near the bridge on her birthday, you'll hear her let out a high-pitched, blood-curdling shriek. This legend is expanded to include a local piece of graffiti. There is a rock painted in large letters, "Happy Birthday." The legend says that Susie was killed here, and her murderer painted this as one final indignity to the girl. But there's never been any evidence of any historical murder definitively linked to the spot. And this is why I don't like creepy suburbs. You get stuff like this.
Yeah, I think part of why suburbs just constantly become the settings of horror stories is because it's just trying so hard to put out, it's like what a wholesome place this is to live. And
we're being normal here, but underneath.
Exactly. Like when something is trying to project that much wholesomeness, you can't help but think that there's something sinister going on there. And I do love that there's a little bit of a personal touch with you having actually passed this by, Shami.
Yes.
I definitely could have gone into some of the St. Augustine stories, but because I've been to St. Augustine, although unfortunately, when we went to visit, literally 2 weeks before COVID-19 was officially announced the pandemic, by the way. What sucks is, of course, I was the only spooky person in this group, so I did not get to do any of the ghost tours.
Oh no. And my final tale is actually something that's not too far from where I live here in downtown Toronto. It is The Legend of the Leaping Lawyer. This is set in Toronto's financial district. Gary Hoy was a corporate lawyer at Holson Day Wilson, and he was known for being a bit of a prankster. Whenever he would give tours at the TD Bank Tower, he would demonstrate the sturdiness of the glass window on his office on the 24th floor by throwing his entire weight at it, and he would bounce right off it every time. And then, in 1993, he was giving a tour to a group of law students when he did this demonstration again. Only this time, the students could only watch in horror as the window popped out of its frame, and Gary Hoy went with it. The fall killed him instantly. It turned out that performing that stunt repeatedly had loosened the frame's grip on the glass, and it finally gave way. It was essentially an accidental self-defenestration, and it earned a reputation of being one of the most bizarre stories that people still think is a myth. Hoy's death also possibly sealed the fate of Holden Day Wilson. In the 3 years, there was a mass exodus from the firm. More than 30 lawyers left after the trauma of losing one of their own. And in 1996, Holden Day Wilson officially closed due to issues surrounding unpaid bills and compensation. It was the most infamous law firm failure in Canadian history at the time. Needless to say, there were so many newspaper clippings on the day that he died because he was actually a real person. And most people didn't realize that. They always hear the legend of the lawyer who accidentally jumped through the glass window of his office and fell to his death.
Did he win a Darwin Award?
Yep, he did! So many posthumous awards.
I hate to say it, but yeah.
Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
This is why I don't go across the Old Finch Road Bridge. This is why I don't go into the high offices of the TD Bank Tower.
So, Shami, I have to ask, how, like, the glass floor in the CN Tower, I'm guessing you wouldn't fuck with that.
No, absolutely not. Especially if you're seeing so much below you, and there is nothing supporting you but the glass. These two, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum of some of the weirdest stories that Toronto has to offer.
Alright, and now we're gonna go back down south, over to Grady.
Welcome to Texas. I've got 3 stories that I was at least passingly familiar with and could verify that these are actual legends and not somebody on the internet just said, hey, I'm gonna see if I can make people believe this is an actual urban legend. The first one is a legend in Dallas. It's the Lady of White Rock Lake. In 1910, construction began on White Rock Lake because originally construction began on White Rock Lake near Dallas because for centuries there were like less than 10 actual lakes in Texas. I forget the exact number. And you've got a whole bunch of people that would like to have water, so over 90% of the lakes in Texas have existed since 1900. So in 1930, they built a park around White Rock Lake, and at some point following then, a woman drowned in the lake. There are different accounts as to who it is. There's the Hallie Enid Gaston, who drowned in 1927 in the lake, and then in 1942, Rose Stone drowned in White Rock Lake. And most accounts that try to give an origin to the lady is credit one of the two of them. People who have encountered her will be driving through usually suburban streets not too far from the lake, and there will be a woman standing on the curb that waves them over, asks them for a ride, and says, "But I need to sit in the back seat because my dress is wet." Gives them an address, person drives to the address, and when they turn around to tell their passenger that they've arrived, all they find is a small patch of water on the backseat of their car. She is notable for not being a malicious ghost. She just wants a ride, and she's peaceful, but she just vanishes just before you get there. And I first heard about her in the 1970s, have been fascinated ever since, because usually ghost stories are about vengeance. This is just about someone wanting to get home.
I feel like I've heard stories about that, not in Texas, but in New Orleans. Like, I've heard that New Orleans has rules that caddies won't accept guests after a certain point because they've had too many instances of ghosts getting in the cabs.
It's a very common thing. She's not the only ghost that does this, but she's our local one.
There are just certain tropes that keep on popping up in these kinds of stories that seem to pop up wherever you are, pretty much. A lot of different states will have varying versions of this very thing, so...
Schrodinger's legend.
How much of it is just people's natural tendency to tell these types of stories? How much of it is actually true? Who knows? Depends on what you believe.
My next two stories are both from San Antonio, and I'm going in ascending order of how disturbing the stories are, which is why I started with the kind and peaceful, friendly one. And now let us go a little further south in Texas to San Antonio, to the haunted railroad crossing. There are different accounts of exactly how it became haunted.
Oh no.
The one that I prefer to believe is that the person who was driving the vehicle in question was a nun. In some cases, it's a school bus. Either way, in every variation of the story, the vehicle stalls out on a railroad crossing, and a train whose headlight is out comes along, and the driver tries to get the children that they are transporting to safety. The school bus driver, in that version, is killed along with all the children. The version that I prefer, with the nun, manages to get free of the vehicle, but all of the children are lost. And then sometime later, unable to cope with the pain of having been the sole survivor of this, she takes another car, she drives it onto the railroad crossing, and she parks it there, hoping that her torment and guilt will end, only to find her car being pushed off of the crossing just before a train can arrive. And the local legend says that if you drive to this crossing and you park there at night on the tracks, the ghosts of the children will push you to safety.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's so sweet of them. I thought this was going to have a sad ending, so I'm glad that the nun was saved by the little ghost children.
Oh no, I'm saving the sad ending for next. This is another one that I heard in the 70s and became fascinated with. And it's just, I love the fact that, again, it's not ghosts that are vengeful. These just want to make sure that nobody suffers their same fate.
Which, doesn't sound at all in character for children. Children are terrible.
Well, so I guess they've had time to process, and they're like, you know what? We kind of like the no adults thing.
Yeah, we don't want anyone joining our kids-only club.
Some people claim that you can actually see handprints on the back of your vehicle if you go and park and get pushed off of there. As with everything, there are no definitive pictures proving this, but it's a great legend. And now, Sam, we're going to get one that's going to definitely go in the direction that you were expecting, the one I just ended to go into.
oh no.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
The Donkey Lady. San Antonio's
The what?
localized version of the La Llorona.
Oh
legend.
no.
This is a category of ghosts that I have classified as crying women because there are many stories. La Llorona is, of course, the most famous one, and incidentally, much respect to her, who's one that ma'am, I have nothing but respect for you. Thank you for giving us your legend, because like a lot of people, I am a rational person, but there's certain spirits you just don't leave it to chance with. So, the Donkey Lady Bridge is one of the the oldest established ghost legends in Texas. There's a bridge over a creek where her ghost haunts, and again, there are multiple versions of this story. The detail that remains the same is it was a family of farmers, a husband, a wife, and their children. Their house catches fire. Everyone dies. In some versions, the husband breaks bad and he's the one who does it. In others, there's someone who is a traveler passing by. The family's donkey brays at him and he gets pissed off, starts beating the donkey. They drive him off. The traveler comes back in the night because he's just still raging about it, and he's the one that lights the house on fire.
Oh, God.
Every version shares the fact that the husband and the children all die, and that the mother, her hands melt until they're shaped like hooves. Her face partially melts because of the heat of the fire, lengthening and making her look like a donkey. And that if you visit Elm Creek Bridge near San Antonio, you can hear the braying of a donkey underneath it, and sometimes also a woman crying.
Listeners, I wish you could see the looks on all our faces right now.
This is like the troll under the bridge, but worse.
Yep. Creepy bridges is definitely a recurring theme.
Nope.
God, what a horrible way
Yes.
to go.
This is why you don't mess with bridges.
Only during daytime.
Did she at least
Yeah.
get that asshole who killed her family?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Fuck
But,
that guy.
Oh, this could be a story worth making.
Some people have reported that if they try to cross the bridge, they have seen a woman with a face like a donkey screaming at them, and others have found hoof prints on the roofs of their vehicles after crossing. So, not a bridge that I'm driving at.
Oh,
Lord,
jeez.
okay.
Pleasant dreams, everyone.
Dude!
Oh, jeez.
Oh, and you cannot on that note.
I'm gonna have to stay up all night reading fanfic to calm myself down.
Oh gosh, I do have a couple more. So, in Port St. Lucie, there is a massive oak tree that is known as the Devil Tree. And one of the major reasons it is considered as much is because of a gentleman, again using the term very loosely, by the name of Gerard John Schaefer. And the reason I say this is an ACAB story, because he was a former policeman in Broward County, and while he was only ever convicted for 2 murders, it is believed he is responsible for at least 30 more killings. Yeah, and there are stories about how the 2 women they were able to find were hung from the tree. That is not true. That is definitely not true. They were found buried several months later, because let's face it, he would have been caught a lot sooner that way. The tree was a burying spot for him, and it is said the tree is indestructible as of now. And basically, Nancy Leichner and Pamela Nader were being 20-somethings, having a good time with their boyfriends at the park. And while the boys were playing in the lake, the girls went for a walk, and they were never seen alive again, basically.
Oh.
Fortunately, Schaefer was arrested eventually when they found the bodies. Partially that, and also apparently there were 2 girls that he had tried to kidnap, but they were managed to escape and run to the nearest police station, ironically the one that he worked at. And for once, there was, in fact, some justice here, because not only was he pronounced guilty and given 2 life sentences, he went on to be killed in prison by one of his fellow inmates.
Justice at last.
And this tree has just become a magnet for all sorts of creepy stories. It's believed that there are a lot of cults involved in it, a lot of people...
Ugh.
A lot of people claim to hear strange noises around it, of course. Lots of ghost sightings, naturally. They believe the spirits of Gerard's victims are there. Screams of young women can be heard near the bathroom. Just all kinds of crazy stuff. And incidentally, Chris Silvano mentioned while he and his co-host at the time were investigating, there was this 10-year-old boy who just happened to pop up, and he just started going on about all the urban legends and kind of leading them to help him find the Devil's Tree.
Oh no.
And apparently the co-host kept on kind of tapping him on the shoulder because she wanted to just confirm he was actually alive. I mean, you know
Smart.
what?
Oh.
I can't say I blame him.
Yeah.
But
She has the right instinct.
yeah, at the very least, this is a story of a bastard serial killer getting justice, even if, let's face it, there will never be justice for those victims, especially if they are actually haunting that tree.
No. But the fact that a 10-year-old boy was there, and he knew all about these urban legends, that just raises even more questions for me.
See,
Not really. To me, that just suggests maybe the kid is autistic.
and reads a lot.
See, here's the thing. Preteens latch on to these kind of things. when
That
you
kid
think about
definitely had all the ology books.
It wouldn't surprise me, actually. And my final one for the evening, The Witch's Wall of Palm Beach. So, in this general area of Palm Beach, there is a coral wall, basically. And it is claimed you can hear the screams of children at night.
Oh.
Oh.
And one legend to explain that is we have another witch, like I said, and supposedly to expand, they blew up her home and in some versions her son with dynamite to make more room to build more stuff. And she went on to kidnap children from the town as vengeance, but they could never prove it because they couldn't find the kids at her place. And it turns out, according to legend, that there were secret tunnels and...
In the walls of the tunnels?
Yep, and supposedly they have found, like, what look like little cells, too, is the thing.
Oh!
Oh my
Yep.
god!
This is like a very dark turn on Pied Piper of Hamelin. Well, that was already dark, but this takes it to a new level.
Yep, and supposedly the children's ghosts remain in the wall.
I'm never making that I live in your walls joke again. You've ruined it.
I'm sorry.
It's
If it makes
ruined.
you feel better, there is a way supposedly you could save the children. If you go there at night and you place your hands on the wall and say, "I release you," 3 times. There have been reports that instead of this crying and the screaming, you can hear a little giggle because that is one child's spirit being released.
Okay, but is the witch's ghost still there? Like, will the witch's ghost try to stop you?
The witch's
Will the witches go suck you into the wall instead?
That is not part of the story, but the witch's ghost is supposedly still there too, yes, in some versions.
What? Like, what is she doing there?
Nope, big nope.
And once again, I'm going to turn it back to the man who told me the story originally. Supposedly, when they tried that, they didn't hear any giggles. But as they were driving and stopping at a red light, a cardinal just happened to land on their car. A little one, like a baby cardinal, basically. Just barely able to fly, I'm guessing. Sam, you look like you know the significance of that. Care to
It's one of the
Yes,
children.
because apparently, according to some folklore, cardinals are messengers between this world and the next.
Huh.
I'm sorry, I'm just still fixated on... The witch is still there.
I mean,
Like, what's her role in all of this? Like, is she keeping it...
That's some fucking horror
it is
movie
kind of
shit.
horror movie shit. Like, to be honest, I'm surprised I haven't seen any versions where she tries to stop you from releasing them.
I'm surprised that it happened to the kids and not to the adults that threw the dynamite.
Yeah, I had the same thought as Shami, because with the Pied Piper thing, but like a lot of times the moral of the Pied Piper gets turned into this thing where the children are going to a better place because the parents are shitty, but you know, that also depends on whether or not you believe the Pied
Yeah.
Piper, or if he fucking killed them all, but...
Oh, God.
Oh my
there are
god, what was
definitely
that sound?
versions.
This is why it is the basis of so many serial killer tales.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
No, but like, did none of you just hear that like moaning sound?
Sam, are you fucking with me?
No, I swear to god, I'm hearing like a whoop sound.
Oh god, what did we invite in?
Oh god, where are my...
Who knew? Yeah, someone get the salt. Someone get the salt.
Where are my crystals?
See, maybe I heard something, but I thought maybe it was somebody's cat.
That's what I was thinking. Like, what? Well, it's definitely not the Barky Bunch, but there's got to be some sort of animals there.
Okay, well...
Okay, I just heard it again.
It
Grady,
sounded
is there
like
any chance that was your cat?
that was not a cat.
What? That is your cat. I see.
It sounded like a siren to me, like somebody driving an emergency vehicle or something.
No, I just heard a meow. I heard a really high-pitched meow just now, so...
Oh my god, though. Oh my god.
Okay, I think that...
Did we invite a ghost cat?
I think that is the sign we should probably stop telling stories. Any further thoughts we want to share about these various stories? Now that we've freaked ourselves out, I will be keeping this in the episode. Are you okay, Sam? Okay, now I heard it. I heard it now.
Okay, it sounds like that's somebody being rambunctious.
What is that?
I really hope so. Because Sam looks genuinely terrified. I would rather they not
Yeah.
get haunted.
Yeah.
I'm like legit scared and cleansing my selenite with fire because oh my god. Oh my god.
For a second there, I thought you were gonna say kill it with fire.
I mean, I'm not saying don't do that. Sam, if you don't want me to keep it in the episode, I was joking. Promise.
No, it's fine. I'm just, right now I'm on red alert because, like, oh my god, that's creepy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to prove the kinds of Christians that say if it's on your TV, it can come at you in the real world, right? I don't want to do that. Okay, let's wait for us to calm down, I guess.
Yeah.
I pulled the hole in this rune. I think we're good.
Okay.
Jesus.
So what have we learned today, children?
Scary stories are best told in the dark, but if you tell them in the dark, beware for a sleepless night.
Don't fuck with the supernatural. Just don't.
How many times do we have to teach you this?
Yeah, don't fuck with witches.
And maybe there's just a kernel of truth if you dig deep enough. Way deep.
Actually, yeah, let's talk about it. What are all of our stances on these sorts of stories? Do we believe in ghosts? Do we believe in these stories? What do we all think?
I mean, I'm a witch, so I'm...
Fair enough.
I guess the way I would put it is that I am open to the possibility of everything, and yet also skeptical of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much the same with me. With that said, I do like ghost stories, and this sort of thing is kind of the perfect intersection of history and spooky things. Though I am very, very sorry that we spooked you this much, Sam.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it was you that spooked me or, like, what that thing was.
Yeah.
It could be both.
If there are any ghosts out there, I do want to make it clear that we do respect your tragedies and insist we mean you no harm.
I take ghost stories with a grain of salt, but you never know. So watch what you do.
I don't care how bad the housing market is. Don't buy that creepy old house.
It's never worth
No,
it.
it does not have good bones. It has bones in the basement.
In the walls.
Did we really ruin the running gag? I was gonna make t-shirts.
Grady, do not laugh like that!
Take a sledgehammer to the walls and let the bones out. That's all you can do.
And that's not even my really bad October laugh. I used to work in a haunt.
Yeah, I mean, we heard it.
Oh no, that wasn't the one that I used. The one that I used in the haunt,
Please
far
don't do
worse.
it.
Oh,
But
God.
because we've already just gonna leave that one for another time.
We do not want a demonstration now. No.
If you do the haunt laugh, I will do the horror movie Scream, and you don't want me to set off the corgi.
No.
No. You don't want to set up the marquee bench.
Oh, it's just the one barky boy now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the palm
Alright.
moved out months ago.
Oh.
Alright, if we don't have any further thoughts, who's got stuff to plug?
Support the Actors and Creators Fund.
Support the local communities and stand against hatred and acts of violence, especially against those who don't deserve it. We're at a point right now where a lot of people are taking out anger on undeserving targets.
Editor Jasmine here. I meant to say this during the recording, but call your representatives. Ask them to urge for a ceasefire in Gaza. We are watching a genocide unfold before our very eyes. We cannot let this stand. I'll leave a link that will help you through that process in the show notes.
I have a thought in my traditional, this is not something I did, this is just something that has some connection to the program that I think is cool and want more people to familiarize themselves with. Firstly, speaking as a former haunt employee, if you have a local run haunt in your community, go. These are people that are working very hard to try to scare you in a way that will entertain you, and you never know exactly what things are going to be the ones that you're going to be talking about for weeks, if not months afterwards. Obviously, if you can't deal with the thought of being scared, stay home. But if you're on the bubble or you're into it, just find a local haunt. People who are local to your area that are doing this, and go buy a ticket, get the hell scared out of you, have a great time. And the two things that I want to recommend are both, in their own way, each horror stories, but not necessarily what people would think of when they think of horror stories, both by an author named Kat Valente, who, if you're not familiar with her, that's yet another reason to read both of these. Please do this. Both of these stories are available to read online for free, and then please go buy her books because she's amazing. And I want her to keep writing more stuff. The first one is The Days of Flaming Motorcycles, which is a first-hand account of a young woman who is the only human left in her town after a zombie apocalypse has happened, where the zombies are not acting the way that all the movies led her to expect. And there are terrible and wonderful things in that story. And I will leave it at that, aside from go read it, please. And the other one is a more recent story called The Sin of America, which doesn't seem like a horror story at first. But the further you get into it, the more you realize that it's the only type of story that you could classify it as. And it will make you cry a lot. And that's why you should read it.
As for me, as someone who works in library and archives, in your local city there's always a section of the library or the archives that has old microfiche or old newspaper clippings depicting old and weird things that happened. And if you go deep enough, if you go far back enough, you'll probably find something that sounds a little bit familiar to you. Maybe an urban legend that you've heard of before. Maybe this is the bare bones of the beginnings of it. I encourage our listeners to go find them and share them to continue with the tradition of urban legends.
Because regardless of how spooked we were, we did have a lot of fun. And you know what? I will yes and that by saying support your local libraries in general, but also see if they have any cool spooky events like the one that inspired this episode, because I know my local libraries had some really great stuff. We painted wine glasses to be candle holders, and then there was this event. They're starting their queer book club with It Came from the Closet, which I am loving. So yeah, because the library is one of the few third locations we have left as a society, at least in America. And you might find out that you are able to find some really cool events, because they really do have something for everybody that are free of charge. And you'll be supporting an institution that has frankly been under way too much scrutiny lately. Support your local libraries however you can. As for me, as always, you can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and TikTok under Frey Riviera. And you can also follow this podcast on Twitter at IER Podcasts.
Has the noise stopped?
Yes, the noise has stopped.
Okay, good.
Oh, just in time.
God damn.
Stay safe, everyone.